What's up, y'all? Just wanted to check in. I haven't recorded much recently, been really busy. Just wanted to update y'all. Bernie Sanders just won the Nevada caucuses and he crushed it. And I think he actually overperformed. So as of 8:47 p.m., Bernie Sanders has about, let's take a look. He has, with 27% reporting, according to the New York Times, he's winning with 46.6% of the vote. And number two is Joseph Biden at 22.8%. Pete Buttigieg at 14.4%. Number four is Elizabeth Warren with 8.8%. And Tom Steyer at fifth with 3.8%. So Bernie absolutely crushed it. He just did phenomenally well, and mad props to all the volunteers, all the donors, all the people who got their friends to vote, got their parents to vote, etc., etc. It just feels amazing. I mean, looking at the national polling averages, the latest polls in Nevada, Bernie Sanders was at 32.5% in terms of average polling, with Biden and Buttigieg tied with 16%. So I think, Bernie Sanders overperformed. So massive props to him. It feels so good. The media narrative going into Nevada was, yeah, Bernie Sanders was, the national front runner, but they all assumed that, he wouldn't win that big in Nevada. They considered Nevada kind of the first true test. And now that he won big, it's undeniable that he's the front runner. And he's, in South Carolina, he's chasing Biden, and the average, he's at 21% and Biden's at 23.3%. So he's chasing him there. And as you've seen with Joe Biden, he has paper thin support. Even though the polls say, he might do decently, there's no enthusiasm in his campaign. All the grassroots support, the organization, the momentum, everything's with Bernie. So I think Bernie's going to knock it out in South Carolina. And with that, if Bernie wins South Carolina, it's in the bag. All that momentum going to Super Tuesday, we could potentially, Bernie Sanders could win it all after Super Tuesday. So it's really exciting time for if you're progressive, if you're someone on the left, if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, especially if you're someone from 2016 where Bernie Sanders was considered like an underdog, a write-off. It feels super good that we've built this organization, like a true grassroots organization, no super PAC money, just average working folks chipping in. Just looking at the numbers ahead, we have California with Bernie Sanders with about, 10% lead on Joe Biden. He's at 26.3% with Biden at 14.8%. In Texas, Bernie Sanders is leading the average, 23.5% to Joe Biden, who's at 21%. In North Carolina, Sanders is at 22.5%, Bloomberg at 20.5%. And the betting odds are in Bernie Sanders' favor, 54.3% to 22.6%. So it's looking phenomenally well for Bernie Sanders, and he's just on a roll. So, MSNBC was having a meltdown today. I think Chris Matthews, Chris Matthews is just basically sputtering out. But Chris Matthews, Joy Ann Reid, they were all just perplexed and dumbfounded at how crushing this victory was for Bernie. And, according to, Reddit and other commenters, CNN looks like maybe they're trying to be on Bernie Sanders' good side and trying to look like that network that didn't write him off, even though they obviously did. But But you're never gonna grow a grassroots progressive movement by being recognized and covered in the media. It's got to be, reaching out to ordinary workers, and that's what Bernie Sanders has done. Um, well, just looking ahead, I decided to just jump on Slack to do some text messages to, you know, random folks, trying to get people, spread the word. Um, wins like this just inspire people. And hopefully, you can donate, you can contribute to to Bernie Sanders's campaign. Just any amount is fine. Um, Tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your coworkers. Um, do some phone banking, do some canvassing, do some texting, anything that you can do to spread the word about Bernie. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's really phenomenal. I was actually surprised myself. Going in, I'm not a person who makes a lot of, predictions, but, going in, I thought Bernie Sanders would be the winner, but maybe a decent performance from Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, with a little bump to Elizabeth Warren after her really strong debate performance. But just, I guess, it's the organization and the grassroots um, um, activism by all these volunteers that made a huge difference in Nevada and made huge inroads to the Latino community and the Black community. So it's really great. It's really good to see, and I'm just elated. It's Super Tuesday is coming up, I think, in about 10 days, a week and a half or so. I've already put in my vote for Bernie Sanders, and if you haven't done so yet, if you're someone living in California, make sure you change your party preference to Democratic. You might not like the Democrats, but if you like Senator Sanders, please make sure your voter registration file says Democratic. You have until the day of the election to change it, so make sure you do so. If especially if you're like a no party preference, an NPP voter, make sure you switch that to Democratic so you can vote for Bernie in the California primary, because this year we matter, and we can, us in California, we can essentially seal the deal for Bernie Sanders. Looking forward, all that business about the culinary union. I think there was a story that broke a week and a half ago about how supposedly, Bernie supporters were so mean to the union bosses of the culinary workers union, blah blah blah, and the culinary union decided not to endorse a candidate, which is, it is. I guess it's not surprising, especially if the union leadership is really connected to the establishment, to the status quo, to people who are powerful, who want to maintain the status quo so they can hold on to their authority, their power, their material wealth. So I can understand that union, the leadership may not have supported a candidate, especially if Bernie Sanders was the candidate. And this was just a big FU to them, because, they were acting like tone police, where they were accusing Bernie supporters of attacking them. And now they thought they had the high road by not supporting someone, but here it comes, and it just bit them back in the rear. So that's a big, FU to them. Bernie's been the biggest pro-union congressman in decades, and obviously all his policies, raising especially Medicare for all. That's a huge boon for unions, because employers don't have to dangle your healthcare coverage in front of you in terms of union negotiations. And in the unfortunate circumstance that someone gets fired or is looking for another job, you still get your healthcare. So, if healthcare is not something dangled to be bargained with during negotiations, unions can focus on fighting for workers' rights, for labor rights, for higher wages, and so on. So Bernie's policies is definitely going to be a boon for unions, and he wants to expand membership, make it easier to join one, make a federal jobs guarantee. So he is very pro-labor. But yeah, it's going to, like many progressive commenters have stated, we have to overperform in order to win, because you never know. The DNC, they screwed Bernie in 2016, so you got to make sure we do extra well. We got to make sure that we're working extra hard to get those votes in, so they can't cheat us out. And obviously there's a lot to be said from like a Marxist point of view, and how important bourgeois elections are, compared to obviously looking to revolution. But at this moment, we'll have to work as hard as we can, because we need to. Our immediate goal is to improve the conditions of working people everywhere. So we still have to fight for Bernie Sanders, still support him, still just work as hard as possible. So go tell your friends, get out the vote. Just soak in this moment, but the next day we got to fight like hell. So take care.